administrator. Depending on the type of matter, we'll either make a final determination or send a recommendation to the City Council. Present here tonight are board members Mary Beth BERNS, Scott GINGOLD, Beth McLennan, Matthew RODGERS, CLARA WINEBERG, and Andrew Gallimore. I'm Lori Summers, the current chair, and we therefore have a quorum. Also present from city staff is Melissa Klotz. I'm going to keep this brief tonight because I think most everybody here was here last time, so you get the idea, you understand the rules, and I think we can move on. I would note for the record that we had previously on our agenda the item for 2500 Grosse Point Road, and that application has been withdrawn, so we have only one item on our agenda this evening after approval of our meeting minutes, which is 2400 Main Street. So going to the meeting minutes, we have a draft for October 16th, 2012 meeting. Are there any corrections or comments? Seeing none, is there a motion regarding approval of those minutes?
I would move that we approve the minutes from our meeting on October 16th as they were submitted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried unanimously, and those minutes are approved. So moving on to the item of 2400 Main Street. Melissa, could you outline what we have received in documentation since our last meeting?
Included as part of the record are a letter from concerned citizen Stephen Shostak, received November 2nd, 2012, a Food for Less memorandum submitted November 6th, 2012, the applicant's response letter to the concerned citizen, site plan, grading plan, elevations, elevation rendering, landscape plan, and photometric plan.
Okay, and I think since we do have additional information about the proposal at this point, I'd like to get all information regarding the proposal on the table first. So if we could have the applicant maybe step forward and share with us the additional exhibits that have been provided for us this evening. And I will take just a moment to remind everyone that you are still under oath from our previous meeting. If I missed you, please remind me, but I believe most everyone has been sworn in.
Do you want us to read through the letter or just highlight?
I don't know that, I think we're all pretty good in terms of running through that, but if you wanted to highlight really quick, I think probably most of us are able to kind of go through that.
Then we'll go through the...
Yes, yeah, so that would be...
Again, my name is Yuli Sala with SSOE. Address is 1050 Wilshire Drive, Troy, Michigan. First, our response to the applicant's concerns. I'll just briefly highlight some of the main points. The first item outlined was the issue with visibility, and our response to that has been that the fuel center actually has the least impact as far as visibility is concerned, because at that site we could have another development that could be a restaurant, it could be a bank, it could be anything else that has a maximum building height of 45 feet, whereas the fuel center, we're applying for this variance because the canopy is considered an accessory to the kiosk. So really the fuel center does allow for better visibility than any other development that could happen in that area. Also, we're pointing out that the added fuel center will bring in more commercial activity to that area, which will actually add more to the visibility of that of the adjacent business, because more people will be in that northern part or northeast part of the development. The second concern was relative to environmental issues, and I think we didn't really address this too much on the first meeting. The Food for Less storage and distribution system is actually a state-of-the-art system, and it far exceeds local, state, and federal regulations. It's a brief description of that, and you can read through it in more detail. It's basically a tank within a tank, and the inside space between the two tanks is filled with a saline or brine solution that's continuously monitored. If any of the tanks, whether the inner tank or the outer tank, breaks or cracks for whatever reason, it will automatically detect a leak, and it will automatically shut off the fuel center until that leak is fixed or the whole tank is replaced. The same applies to the fueling, the piping that distributes the fuel or the product. It's the same mentality, a pipe within a pipe with a saline solution in the middle. If there's a leak, whether inside or on the outside pipe, it'll automatically detect it, and it'll automatically shut down the whole fuel center until that's fixed. In the very low probability that a leak will happen or a break will happen in both tanks at the same time, then, again, the fuel center detects that, or the monitoring system detects that, automatically shuts it down, and then Food for Less is responsible to go in, repair the tanks, and decontaminate the site. In addition, the fuel center also does incorporate a stage 2 vapor recovery system, which is located at the pump, and it acts as a vacuum to capture any vapors that are released at the pump, so really further lessening the environmental impact. And then the third item was regarding the traffic patterns, and I think we discussed this pretty extensively in the first meeting. Again, to reiterate, the truck will take the same, or the fueling truck that will fill the underground storage tanks takes the same path that any other trucks come into the site that supply product or provide supplies for all the other businesses, whether it's Food for Less, Sam's, or any of the Marshalls, any of the other businesses. So it'll take the same path. The only thing is it will stop near the fuel center, unload the product, go to the back of the site, turn around, and then exit at the same entrance. We also highlighted that the underground tanks, which was another concern, are actually 75 feet from the property line and further along to the building of the adjacent owner. Again, as far as traffic concerns, with regard to we did provide a traffic impact analysis that showed that will be minimal impact to this area. So therefore, we don't feel that there's any negative impact as far as traffic is concerned. And we can move along to the new plans that were submitted. Some of the changes that have been incorporated are very minor. Some that came from whether it was the Spark meeting or the result of the traffic analysis. We are recommending that we remove 2 of the parking, street side parking across the street, and therefore allowing for traffic bypass for anybody that wants to turn left. Cars traveling through Main Street can bypass that without having to stop. We also added 2 handicap spaces as required by the zoning analysis, which reduced the parking count by 1 space. So instead of having a net gain of 4 spaces, now we only have a net gain of 3 spaces. Again, it's still a net gain in parking spaces. In addition, we submitted, as requested, the grading plan, which shows the existing and proposed topography of the site. And this outlines why we are requesting, or one of the reasons why we are requesting a variance for the canopy height to allow for the fuel truck to come in and possibly go underneath that canopy if necessary. In addition, also as requested, we supplied a elevation rendering of what the fuel center will look like and how that will be tied into the fuel center. I think that drawing is pretty self-explanatory, but it does help. The first concern that the adjacent owner had with regard to visibility, you can see how this has very little impact to visibility, and drivers can actually see underneath the canopy and through to the adjacent businesses. I believe that's it.
Any questions?
Just to clarify, I was looking at the grading plan, and the spot elevations that are lighter are the existing, and then the darker highlighted elevations are the
Correct.
proposed. Am I reading that correctly?
Correct. And to further expand on that, the site has a downward slope going north, and we're limited to what we can do here because of the shallow storm system that we have, the underground storm pipes that we have.
Okay, so if I'm following this correctly, our highest grade is approximately 17 and a half, say.
Our highest grade would be at the kiosk, and it's at 17.72, just in front of that kiosk.
0.72, okay. And
And the lowest point is at the top right of the canopy, if we're talking about underneath the canopy, which I presume.
can you walk me through really quickly how we're defining how we're defining the variance? Is that from an average or from a specific, or you're asking for 19 feet from what?
Maximum of 19 feet from the finished grade, so top of pavement, to the top of the canopy. So it can be a maximum of 19 feet. The ordinance right now specifies a maximum of 14 and a half feet. So at the points where it is a higher elevation, it will be less than 19 feet.
Okay, so it would be so regardless of so basically we're measuring from our lowest elevation, which is approximately 16,
Correct.
and then going up there. So we have about 1 3/4
Correct.
difference there. Okay. And just so I understand, with respect to one of the comments from the neighbor in the letter, because this speaks to something that I'm not as familiar with, with respect to the tanks that are put underground, are those, the tank is in contact with the ground? It's not put inside like a metal, a concrete vault or something like
No,
that?
it's in contact with the
ground.
backfill, which is a pea gravel backfill.
Okay.
And the tanks are fiberglass, so they're rust proof.
And I presume that's like a standard scenario
Correct.
at this point in time. Are there any questions from the board with regard to the additional information that's been provided at this point? Okay. Any other questions before we move on to the neighbor at all?
Madam Chairman?
Sure, Mr. Engelmann.
Last time we were here, we had done our presentation. You then asked for people within 250 feet if they wanted to, in support. There were none. Then you asked for people 250 feet who opposed, and that was when Mr. Schockstock got up. There is a gentleman here tonight who is here to support the project. He owns the properties immediately across Main Street from the shopping center. Do you want him to testify now, or after Mr. Shostak.
Why don't we move to Mr. Shostak and kind of get any information that he wants to provide, so we have everything on the record, and then we can take other comments. Thank you. I appreciate the update. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to come to speak tonight. Thank you for passing on the information, the owner's information and their concerns. And really, the point here is that they wanted to express concerns with respect to the development that they raised in the letter. It's really the ownership's belief that the board will vote to protect the existing viable businesses in the village, and really the letter speaks to itself. Those are the concerns that the ownership has.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate you getting this in so that we could get full answers developed.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And is there anyone else who wishes to speak with us this evening regarding this project? Sir? I don't believe you've been sworn in, have you?
No, I haven't.
Can you raise your right hand? Can you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth throughout the course of these proceedings?
Yes, I do.
Thank you, sir. If you could give us your name and address for the record.
My name is Alan Goldberg. I'm a commercial real estate agent with Farah Commercial Brokerage, located at 1740 Ridge Avenue, Evanston, Illinois.
Thank you.
And I just want I have 35 years of experience in commercial real estate, and it just seems to me that this just doesn't seem like a great location for a gas station. I go into that shopping center quite frequently, and having more people make left turns going in there just seems, I don't know why we would want that. There doesn't seem to be a shortage of gas stations in the neighborhood. And I just don't, I agree with the ownership's position that, granting this zoning variance would negatively affect the adjacent property owners' marketability and value. Just having the existence of a gas station adjacent to the property creates much greater costs and difficulty in marketing a property because of environmental concerns, no matter what kind of tanks they have there. It's just the fact that it's there causes a lot more hoops and concerns that negatively impact the value. And, I'm just saying that, I think that the board here should take those concerns to heart when they make these decisions. Thank you.
Thank you. Was there anyone else who wished to speak with us this evening? Did you say there was somebody?
I do have a gentleman here who
Good evening, sir. I'm going to swear you in. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth throughout the course of these proceedings?
I do.
And I'm going to need your name and address, please.
Sure. My name's Dan Blyer, and I live in Evanston at 2507 Lincoln.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. May I question the witness?
Sure. Sorry, I misunderstood. I thought he was going to make a statement, not be a witness. But that's fine. Here nor there. I just misunderstood you. So go ahead.
Why don't you make a statement?
Sure.
Explain to them who you are, how much property you own, and what you do.
Sure. I actually own the building across the street from where the proposal is. I own the buildings at 2423 Main and 2409 Main. They used to be the old Sears Hardware and Paint, and I've owned them for over 25 years. And I've seen the shopping mall go up and down. And I do know Steve Engelman he's my attorney, and he asked me if I would testify. And I see nothing but a benefit for this community. In terms of property taxes, sales taxes, it's been vacant land for a long time, and with the hard economic times, what I've seen and experienced is we do need businesses. Somebody had stated there's a glut of, or quite a few other gas stations. Well, there are quite a few in Skokie. What I like to see is businesses that want to come into Evanston, and Foods for Less has brought a lot of business into those shopping malls. We directly don't get affected, but we do have a tenant next to us called Automatic Appliance that is retail-based. We are strictly wholesale. What I do see is obviously the fact that all of us in the community can use a business that's thriving, and I just see opportunities for all of us.
Do you believe that this project will have will adversely interfere with or diminish the property values of your property across the street or property values in the neighborhood?
I think just the opposite. I own properties all around. I have a property in the city that's near a gas station, and with the federal requirements today, I don't see the kind of risks that the other gentleman just stated. They have to meet very stringent requirements. And I think our values will go up. If anything, there'll be more traffic coming into Evanston as opposed to less.
Do you think another gas station in Evanston will negatively impact the immediate area or Evanston as a whole?
Just the opposite. As I stated before, there's quite a few in Skokie. What's nice is if they would cross over on McCormick Boulevard and come into Evanston and pay our property taxes and our sales taxes, it's vacant land. So it's, it can benefit all of us.
The City Council recently talked about their goals and objectives. One of the major goals that they enunciated was to promote economic development in this community. Do you believe that the project that Food for Less would like to put up will enhance economic development in the community? Yes.
As I stated before, I truly do believe this. I think, if anything, we need to develop and bring in more businesses like this. I've chosen to be in Evanston for over 25 years, and I think all of us have an obligation to look at the opportunities and possibly bring in businesses that want to do business in Evanston, and this is a great opportunity for all of us. And I honestly wouldn't say that unless I thought my property values are going to go up. Like I said, I've been on Main Street, and I've seen that shopping mall go down and go up, and Food for Less has been one of their anchor tenants with Sam's Club. And once again, that property is going to be, as I just saw it, right adjacent to us, and I think it'll bring more traffic through Evanston.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Actually, I had a quick question. You mentioned two of the businesses that are in those buildings. Are there any other businesses in those buildings that you
The other one's vacant now. 2409 is vacant. It used to be a company called Chicago Tank Lining. And if they do come in, will you lower my property taxes? It's just a joke. But it could be. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Actually, Miss, I had a quick question I was hoping maybe you could help me out with. I was looking at the plan. Oh, sorry, sir. Melissa, I was looking at the plan here, and there's a whole lot of color going on, which I presume is the zoning districts that are not labeled. Do you happen to know what they are?
Pink is TIF.
What?
Pink is a TIF.
That explains that one. Yeah, or if it's in the here, I can.
They are the zoning districts. The pink would be the district that the proposal is located in, which would be the C1 district. The just to the east, that brown is industrial. I believe
Okay,
it's
that is-
I1, and then the surrounding yellow is residential.
Right. Okay, so the brown is industrial. That's what I was wondering. And is the other kind of brown, kind of kitty corner also industrial? Do you think? Yes, it is. Okay. Something. Okay. Are there any other questions before we let Mr. Engelman close?
Well, has there been a market study done? Are we allowed to ask for that? I mean, such emphatic noting of no impact to surrounding businesses. I'm wondering if there's been a market study procured.
I suppose we could ask, have you done a market study for this property?
Mr. Dave will respond to that question.
David Copenay for Food for Less, 1526 North Hudson, Chicago, Illinois. To answer that, I am the real estate manager for Food for Less here in Chicago. While not bringing the sales study, I can promise you that as a responsibility of my job is something that we do before we assess putting a fuel center site. Obviously, I'm not interested in investing in a center that's not going to be successful and profitable. We've done an assessment
You
garnering
do an assessment for the Food for Less or for the gas station component?
for the gas station component. We looked at it separately. We're having to ascertain we are paying rent to the landlord who's unfortunately not being able to be here. We aren't here. We're not operating a charity. I'm not trying to tell you that we aren't a business that's looking to be for profit. I can tell you that we did an analysis that definitely shows and substantiates that there is a market demand for the services that we're offering, and the only answer without my market study there to give you gallonage or to give you the rest is to promise you that I'm not interested in losing my job and putting fuel centers in places that aren't going to be
So is the
successful.
market study based on reduced pricing to put competition on the adjacent businesses, other gas stations, or is it based on providing additional value, the food component?
It's twofold. As compared to our competitor in the shopping center that purely uses it as their own competitive, advantage on only allowing their customers to use it, we look at it twofold. We're going to allow all customers to use it. We think that it draws, one, it's going to serve the customers that we have today, but two, honestly, we're optimistic that people looking for cheaper gas are going to come to the shopping center that may not have before and hopefully want to shop at our store to take advantage of the fuel discount I think I explained a month or so ago.
So presumably, your argument is that your site will be successful, and we don't have to worry about a environmental condition there, a blighted site, but there could be one in an adjacent property because you will be looking to, you're not saying that there's an increased demand, more people, an increased demographic needing additional gas. It's just a shifting of population.
I would answer that twofold. We look at it, I think that there is a population or a service base. Fuel is so spot on. I think most people sit there and realize that they need gas and get gas when they need it. To say that I'm necessarily worried about putting others out, would be out of the piece. I'm responsible for what Food for Less can do and not. I would solely point you out that I think that our competitor, the only one that's initially or immediately in our shopping center, goes to business entirely differently. Those shoppers have a Sam's Club membership. They likely aren't shopping at two grocery stores in the same shopping center. We aren't going to put the one out that's in our shopping center. If we talk about other area businesses, yes, in all honesty, we're going to take volume from them. It's not going to be substantial when you talk about the number of fuel centers all around and multitudes of, whether it's percentage points from each piece. I'm not going to specifically be able to tell you that people, the specifics of where things come from, but yes, it's going to come from other areas, so I can't lie to that.
Any other questions right now? Okay, seeing none and seeing nobody else in the room, Mr. Engelman, would you like to
Mr. Kopenhofer will
close?
So we'll keep it brief. We obviously had a long and lengthy discussion I guess it was a month or so ago, talking to you about why it is that we want to do this, why it is I've been put to come in front of you and obviously interested in putting a Food for Less gas station there. To highlight quickly, just a few key points. It's a capitalist society. It's a competitive marketplace, and I'm sure you're all aware of how competitive grocery business is as a whole. I think that we've seen fierce competition. I can certainly speak to it on low margins. It's razor thin and ultra competitive. There are other shopping centers I know, even in the close proximity, that have gone downhill recently because of the grocery anchored center or the grocery operator not doing as well. I'm sitting here in front of you today telling you that I want to invest in our shopping center, not doing it with the hopes of pulling out in a year or two. If we show that we're investing, we're obviously interested in staying here for a long time. And what I've told you about fuel has become an important part of the value proposition that we want to be known for. Yes, we do it. We hope that we're going to garner loyal supporters that want to come shop at our grocery store, and we'll utilize the fuel center as well. We also are willing to serve the other customer base and give people in these tight economies 10 cents off a gallon really is meaningful. I'm sure you're also aware when we talk about competitors in other municipalities around you, competition won't stop. You may be aware of Walmart announced over in Skokie, west of McCormick on St. Louis, across the street, I believe, from Lowe's, has passed Skokie's council, will go under construction next year. It's just a piece of the ever-changing dynamic, but those, obviously, maybe you weren't aware, competition never changes. And so as I speak to it, we're obviously trying to get out in front. We're going to be aggressive, and we're obviously optimistic that you guys will consider that we want to invest in allowing us to do it. The other key points we talked about, we're obviously talking about a vacant parcel that's been there for a long time, talking about generating property tax, sales tax, jobs, things that haven't been there before, all things that I think that most people look at as positives in this economy. Like I said, I'm not here to speak for long, but I hope you understand that it is an important part of our business. I hope that you've understood why it is that we think it's not just for us. We are serving a customer base, but it is important to who we are if we want to be a long-term grocer in this site. In closing, I would hope that you consider the special use and the variance as presented and approve. Were there any final questions?
See any? Thank you. One last thing I wanted to do before I close the record, just to make sure there aren't any questions that develop. Is there any discussion or question related to the height that's requested in case there's a need for clarification on that?
I actually wanted to ask, it was brought up in the last meeting that Sam's Club might have had a variance on their signage. Melissa, can you speak to that? Is that something that they were provided a variance on, and if so, how much of a variance?
On their signage?
On their canopy.
On their they did receive a variance for the canopy height, I believe up to 17 feet.
I think it was 17.5.
17.5? That sounds correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments related to that just before? Okay. Then with that, we will close the record and begin our deliberations. And we have, as mentioned, two scenarios under consideration at this point: a special use permit for an automobile service station and zoning relief request related to accessory structure height, which fall under two separate categories of standards. Are there any general discussion or comments before we go through?
I have a general concern. Under the special use standards, I have concerns about the factors that deal with property values and the effect that the special use will have on neighboring properties, and also with the standard that pertains to undue traffic congestion. With respect to the property values, we've heard conflicting opinion testimony from neighboring commercial properties, but I'm more concerned with the effect that having a gas station built across the street will have on the residential properties on the other side of Maine. I also, with respect to traffic, did not find credible the traffic study submitted by Food for Less. Mr. Miller, I think his name was, who presented the study, testified that he didn't give any consideration to the traffic that would come from the gas station 2 blocks down the street, which I can't imagine why he would have assumed there wouldn't be any cannibalization of cars from that location, when it sounds like that's not only part of the business plan of Food for Less to attract cars from other gas stations with cheaper prices, but also the testimony of tonight from the neighbor across the street who spoke on behalf of the project, that suggested that he thought the gas station would bring a lot more traffic, including from Skokie. I've driven on that block countless times, including several times in the month since we had our last meeting, and I'm continually frustrated by the traffic on that street and can't imagine that having a cheaper gas station that I am sure will drive traffic won't create more of a congestion problem than I think is there already. I also noted that the revised plan tonight is to take 2 parking spaces off of Main Street, supposedly to alleviate congestion, but with parking as sparse as it is in Evanston, including in that neighborhood, I can't imagine that that's a great idea. So those are my concerns with the special use.
Scott, can you, the first part I'm trying to follow when you were talking about the traffic, I'm having a little bit of trouble following the part about the traffic from the other stations. I don't, like, you can't see this station from there. I'm not, like, are you thinking that people go to the other station and they see this station and come here?
No,
what's the...
I'm thinking that, as Mr. Copenhaver just testified, when people need gas, they go to get it. And people who are driving down McCormick that might go to the gas station on McCormick and Main may instead, and I believe will instead, go left on Main and go to the gas station on the east side of McCormick.
Okay, so it's not necessarily specifically from the other gas station, but just generally there would be an increase of traffic.
It's cannibalized traffic that otherwise
Going,
would go
yeah.
to the other gas station. It's not people leaving the other gas station to go to.
Okay.
It's figurative.
Okay. That's why I was a little bit lost trying to follow there. So, okay. Yeah, basically there's an increase of traffic because there's people that might be west of us that are coming to purchase gas in Evanston. Did you have something, Claire?
I agree with Scott in terms
okay.
of the impact to the neighboring residential area. That's an area that needs support, and I don't think adding a gas station will necessarily benefit their property values. I think having a commercial area there is certainly a benefit, and right now, without the gas station, I think it has more pleasant curb appeal. Adding a gas station, I think, will be a detriment to the area and the surrounding residential neighborhood.
Out of curiosity to the 2 members who have raised this issue, what type of a commercial development would you favor, or would there be none that would be favored?
No, absolutely. Under C1, there are multiple uses that could benefit a residential area more than a gas
But if
station.
one of the arguments is traffic, any business that's brought in there is going to increase traffic.
There are separate factors under the special use for whether a special use should be granted. My concern was to both of them separately. But I agree, any additional commercial use will drive additional traffic. However, a business whose stated purpose is to bring in more traffic from neighboring gas stations.
Any business that goes in is going to be wanting to drive traffic into that neighborhood. That's what business does.
I agree wholeheartedly.
A restaurant would want to cannibalize from Dengio's or from, I just mentioned them because I know they're right there.
And there are other restaurants in that plaza already.
Right.
I agree with you. I don't disagree. But I also think that this particular project will cause undue traffic congestion. And that's one of the considerations we have to give in deciding whether or not to grant a special use for it.
I guess I feel like I can't say that I find the traffic impact study non-credible. I mean, you're right, what you said before. I can't quote exactly what you said, that where you found it not credible. But, I mean, they did the analysis. It seemed pretty reasonable to me. It's possible that there might be some additional traffic that would have gone to another gas station, but I fail to see how that's a busy street. It's going to stay a busy street. Any business that goes there is going to add to that level of traffic. I don't see. I feel like what you and member WINEBERG are saying right now. It seems like it's really biased against the gas station. I guess I'm just not finding that same level of bias.
Not so much with the traffic as much as the impact to the neighborhood. I don't think from a commercial standpoint.
Oh, okay, sorry.
From a commercial standpoint, I think the neighborhood would benefit from a different kind of commercial use. Any other retail. I don't think another gas station would benefit it. Now, at the same time, their business plan, as they stated, is based on pillaging the existing demographics from other gas stations. So we either end up with a vacant, unused gas station here or somewhere else in the Evanston area, or potentially Skokie, but that's not to say they don't count either. So,
I actually, having lived in the south end of Evanston for a number of years, there's actually not enough gas stations down there, believe it or not.
On the east side.
Even on the south side. I mean, I find myself driving to Skokie to get gas. So, I don't know. I don't agree with y'all's conclusions, I guess. I'll just leave it at that.
I don't know when you lived there, but there's a gas station on Oakton just east of McCormick now that went up sometime in the last couple of years.
That's true, and I go to that one now, but it's, it would be nice to also have one at Maine. And I very strongly concur with, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting your name. Why wouldn't I want to go to one that's on the Evanston side, knowing that then my, tax revenues are going to Evanston as opposed to going across McCormick into Skokie? If I've got to make that choice, that's a no-brainer to me.
I agree, and if every Evanston resident made the same decision, it would increase the traffic to this gas station. It's sort of making my point. I just want to clarify my comment on the credibility of the expert report. As a commercial litigator, I see expert reports in litigation all the time. They come in on both sides of every issue. They're paid for, and the expert, not surprisingly, always comes out in favor of the party that's paying for the report. So I'm sure had the neighboring properties opposed to this commissioned an expert report, they could have generated one that showed equally that there would be undue traffic. My problem with this particular report is that the expert that wrote it specifically didn't take into account the cannibalization of traffic from other neighboring gas stations when that's the stated purpose, or one of the stated purposes of the business, as stated by Mr. Copenhaver and as noted by residents in the neighborhood. So not having accounted for a significant source of traffic and estimating the effect of traffic on the property, to me, seems like a great oversight that undermines the credibility of the report.
So you're saying he ignored, you think there are actually more people going to the gas station than to? Not just coming from the west, but you think there are, presumably in a traffic study, I don't do them, but presumably there's some sort of chart somewhere that, that explains how many patrons a gas station gets at various hours with various populations, et cetera, et cetera. So that shouldn't change regardless of whether or not there's a gas station east of it or west of it or whatever, right?
The testimony on record is that this gas station plans to offer lowered prices and try to bring in traffic from people looking for gas, including from neighboring, that otherwise would go to neighboring gas stations. That is, the testimony of the expert that wrote the report is that he didn't consider that factor when deciding how much more traffic would come to this location. I find that to be a fatal flaw in the expert's opinion. And I disagree with the expert's opinion that there won't be undue traffic congestion caused by this project. You're certainly entitled to disagree with me or think otherwise, but that's my concern.
I guess I'm inclined to let it sort itself out. Like, I don't ever drive on North and Clybourne on a Saturday afternoon. I don't ever go down there. And I guess I kind of...
That's a good model?
I'm just saying that...
It's got profitable businesses that somebody's going to because
somebody's
they're able
going.
to pay rents.
That's what my point is it'll work itself out.
But there's
And
not
it's-
gas stations.
But they have consumers, regardless, who are going there by car.
Well, there's a
What he
population
said.
of residences in that area that need to be taken into account, and a gas station isn't going to benefit.
They bought in next to a C1, didn't they? It has a commercial development. There is a gas station.
C1.
But anecdotally, what I would just like to say is I live in Northwest Evanston where there is a gas station 3 blocks from my house. I live in a neighborhood where houses range from $700,000 to $1.5 million. That does not affect the property value in that neighborhood.
That's not the same neighborhood, and that's not even a...
It's a gas station. It's still a gas station. There are gas trucks going up and down my street every hour of the day. It's still all part of that, I bought into that neighborhood knowing that gas station was there and knowing it was 3 blocks away. And sometimes it's convenient when I need air for my bicycle tires or when I'm out of gas or something like that. So I'm not sure that a gas station necessarily is a detrimental thing to a neighborhood. And that's my opinion on that.
I'll admit it doesn't have the greatest curb appeal, but I'm looking at the Google Maps, and everything across the street from this development is commercial and industrial. It's not like we're taking away parking spaces from a residential street. It's all, tree trimming, auto parts. I guess there's previously tank lining. I mean, it's all, except for a church that I see, it's all commercial and industrial. It's not like we're, taking parking spaces away from homeowners. So what kind of, I agree with the traffic study though. So what kind of business, I guess, is what I struggle with?
One allows a lot of different types.
Maybe we could put a McDonald's in.
Sure.
And I do live between Maine and Oakton, so I'm probably closer to this than a lot of people. And I used to not go to the shopping center very often. I have recently joined the health club in that area. And I got to say, there are people there all the time just for the health club, and how convenient it would be to get gas after working out or shopping in the shopping center versus driving across McCormick or driving back around Oakton Street. And there are a lot of people, presumably community members from the immediate area, and I've gone there different times of the evening and daytime. And to me, it just seems like people would shop in that area. And, they are obviously area residents that are working out there.
I don't disagree with anything you just said. I'm looking at the factors we have to apply, and I have a problem with the traffic that I believe this project's going to generate.
Are you more worried about, I know last month we were talking about the problem of possibly making left-hand turns from traffic coming from Are you more worried about traffic coming from the west, or just traffic in general on Main Street?
I'm worried about traffic in general. I think the traffic from the west will be a significant factor that the expert didn't consider, but that street is very busy. It's at least on the times when I'm there. And I think any incremental traffic, and especially significant incremental traffic, will cause a big problem.
The problem with traffic in Evanston is that their east-west throughways are horrifically crowded at rush hour times of day. Oakton is awful. You try to go east on Oakton at 6 o'clock at night, takes an hour to get to the lake. And the Main Street is the same way, Dempster is the same way, it's the same way all up and down McCormick. That's just how it is. I just don't see how throwing a gas station in the mix is going to change it enough to make it worse than it already is or better. You know what it's just not, I don't find that to be, I don't have a problem with whether or not it's going to be undue congestion. It's congested over there at certain times of day.
By that logic, though, then this factor means nothing because Evanston is just crowded.
No, that's not true. I'm trying to recall, this is all anecdotal, one of the school, somebody, maybe it was Royce Moore, I can't, there are times and places where I could see where it absolutely makes a difference, but worrying about a gas station on Main Street in Evanston, that part of Main Street, I just don't find that standard to be that applicable.
All right, why don't we march through our standards and see where we end up. Again, we are recommending to the City Council in this case, and because there is a special use involved, even the variance, which obviously in this case doesn't really matter either way, but the variance gets kind of bottled up with the special use recommendation to City Council. So starting with the special use, standard number 1 is that the requested special use is on the list of special uses in the zoning ordinance for this district, and it is, and again, we are automobile service station. Standard number 2, the requested special use is in keeping with the purposes and policies of the comprehensive general plan and the zoning ordinance. In this particular case, the proposal is to be placed in an existing commercial shopping center with commercial space on both sides of the street in an area in which additional business is intended to be promoted. So I believe this standard has been met.
I agree.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Standard number 3, the special use will not cause a cumulative effect when its effect is considered in conjunction with the cumulative effect of various special uses of all types on the immediate neighborhood and the effect of the proposed type of special use upon the city as a whole. There's been some discussion in this general area. I would note in terms of my review that I do not believe that there's a negative cumulative effect. This is one of the main entrances into Evanston and one of the main entrances that has shopping and businesses located at it. Several of the other entrances do have a gas station. It kind of goes hand in hand with the travel and shopping that's happening at those locations. There's one at Oakton, a new one at Oakton, as was mentioned, and one at Dempster. And so, but there's not another gas station that's fully open to the public at this particular entrance at this time. So, given that scenario, I do not believe there's a negative cumulative effect.
Agree.
I disagree.
I agree.
I agree.
Agreed.
Standard number 4, the requested special use does not interfere with or diminish the value of property in the neighborhood. Again, there's been quite a bit of discussion on this issue. And I do think that given a gas station, there's particular merit to considering this this standard. However, given the existing commercial aspect and sort of the historical industrial aspect, particularly, and still industrial aspect, kind of adjacent, I think that long term, a lot of the past environmental issues are probably almost more of a concern, and I don't think that the future of a gas station in this location outweighs certainly the history of industrial presence in that area. So from that vantage point, I do not believe that it will diminish the value of the property in the neighborhood.
I disagree.
I agree.
I agree.
I would agree, and also note that actually no residential neighbors showed up to contest this particular application.
Agreed.
Standard number 5, the requested special use can be adequately served by public facilities and services. Well, kind of somewhat tangential and involved also with standard number 6. This could tie into kind of the availability of street space and traffic that's on in the area, and so I'm going to kind of tie this a little bit together, but it certainly seems like there's a need for the city to look at how the traffic works along that portion of the street and where parking spaces are and where turning lanes are, but I don't believe that's insurmountable. So from that perspective, and again, we are in a commercial area and it has all the other necessary public facilities and services, I believe this standard has been met.
I agree.
I agree.
Agree.
I agree.
I agree.
Standard number 6, I just alluded to. I would certainly recommend to City Council that there be an overall review of some of the traffic flow in that area, but I do not believe it will cause undue traffic congestion. My suspicion is that the vast majority of traffic into and out of the proposal will be traffic that is going already east or west on Main Street.
I disagree.
I agree.
I agree. I would also, since this is going to City Council and we sort of have their ear, recommend that they look at any commercial districts in which there could be development and look at what are they doing or what are they planning with traffic in those areas, because I'm sure we will come across this many, many times again as we look at different proposals that are presented to us. If the City Council and the Planning Commission have not developed the infrastructure to support the zoning that is there, that, in my opinion, is really a fault on the City Council and the zoning planners of the city to not provide the infrastructure.
That's a good point. I would also add to that, even though I don't think that the special use should be granted, that if City Council is inclined to request it, that they perhaps ask the applicant to have their expert update his study to properly consider the factors that may affect traffic to the gas station, so that City Council can consider a report that's valid. Thanks.
Thank you. Standard number 7, the requested special use preserves significant historical and architectural resources. This is a paved parking lot that was it's pretty new, so this standard is generally not applicable.
Agreed.
Standard number 8, the requested special use preserves significant natural and environmental features. We have talked about the environment and kind of in general, but the applicant has provided information regarding the most up-to-date standards for gas stations, and I would further add that there aren't any significant natural or environmental features on the site to be preserved at this time.
I agree, and would also note that it appears they are allowing for some green space, as small as it may be, but they are taking into consideration softening the building from the street.
Thank you.
I think their
required.
plan. I think their plan actually had some flower specks in it as well, if I remember a month ago correctly.
Stair number 9, the requested special use complies with all other applicable regulations of the district in which it is located and other applicable ordinances, except to the extent such regulations have been modified through the plan development process or the grant of a variation. At this point, I don't know if, especially since it doesn't exist any ways in which it's not currently meeting requirements, and would note that as per usual, it would be subject to, as a gas station, it would certainly be subject to all applicable state, local, and federal laws. So there would be thorough review of that. Any other comments on the special use? We'll move on to the major variation standards.
Should we vote on the special use before we discuss the major variation? I'm not suggesting we should or shouldn't, but
I would suggest that we do both of them since it's kind of a package deal. I don't know that anybody who is not in favor of the special use is going to approve. If you are in favor of special use, having the canopy on the accessory structure is kind of a moot point. And since we can't decide these, since we're not a deciding body on either one of them, I would recommend that we just make one motion for approval or denial to send to the City Council.
Are you okay
I'm
with
fine
that,
with
Scott?
that.
yeah, I didn't.
That's fine.
Either way.
Okay. So again, the requested variance for major variation is for 19 feet, and that has been described as being from the lowest adjacent grade. And that's certainly how I will be considering this. Standard number 1, the requested variation will not have a substantial adverse impact on the use, enjoyment, or property values of adjoining property. We have heard some testimony regarding this matter and the impact of the canopy on the site and patrons that are going to adjacent properties. While I do kind of follow the concerns of the adjacent property in terms of the fact that their view may be somewhat diminished, I do still think that this is a less adverse impact than potential other outlot uses certainly could be. So I don't believe there's a substantial adverse impact, and therefore I believe the standard has been met.
I agree.
Agree.
I disagree.
Standard number 2, the requested variation is in keeping with the intent of the zoning ordinance. The height that is provided in the zoning ordinance doesn't necessarily contemplate the infrastructure of vehicles that are needed to be able to access under this space, nor does it contemplate the free span that's required from a structure like this.
Or the change in grade.
Or the change in grade. So adding all those things together, I do think that that this is still within keeping with the intent of the zoning ordinance.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
Agree.
Standard number 3, the alleged hardship or practical difficulty is peculiar to the property. We did, I think it was very key to understand the grading of the property, and we've now kind of seen that and understood how we've gotten to certainly a height that I don't believe that I would be comfortable with approving without that backup and understanding of how we got there. But there is a significant drop-off just within the distance that the canopy itself encompasses, and therefore the additional height for that beyond what might be standard for an automobile canopy is a particular hardship for the property. So the standard is met, I believe.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
Agree.
I agree, and would also note that the height of the canopy that's on this property for Sam's Club, if you take that into consideration with the grade that occurs on this particular property, is what they are asking for.
Thank you. Standard number 4, the property owner would suffer a particular hardship or practical difficulty as distinguished from a mere inconvenience if the strict letter of the regulations were to be carried out. If the strict letter of the regulations were to be carried out, it would be technically infeasible to provide this type of structure that's required for this type of business. So from that standpoint, I believe the standard has been met.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
Agree.
Standard number 5, the purpose of the variation is not based exclusively upon a desire to extract additional income from the property. Irregardless of kind of the special use itself and adding an income-based use to the property, the specific request regarding the height is not necessarily exclusively upon a desire to extract additional income. It's kind of part and parcel of the business in business use of that property location in general. So from that standpoint, I believe the standard has been met.
I agree.
I agree.
Agreed.
Standard number 6, the alleged difficulty or hardship has not been created by any person having an interest in the property. There's quite a bit of topography at the edge of this particular site. In fact, there's quite a few people that have skidded their cars at the other entrance to this development. So I think we can all understand the existing topography and that hardship was not created by the applicant.
I agree.
Standard number 7, the requested variation is limited to the minimum change necessary to alleviate the particular hardship or practical difficulty which affects the property. And this is certainly where I know I was going at our last meeting with respect to the grading of the property and the grading of the development. But I believe that the information provided has substantiated the request. And therefore, I believe that this standard has been met.
I agree.
Agree.
Agreed.
So at this point, we will move forward to entertain a motion. I would request that we include in the motion the clarification, just to be certain that the measurement is from the lowest adjacent grade, just in case there's any issue later on in terms of how that was defined.
I'm sorry, I missed that first part there.
That the request for major variation in height is as measured from the lowest adjacent grade.
Got it.
In that case, I would move in the matter 12 ZMJV 0068 at 2400 Main Street that we recommend approval of a special use for an automobile service station and that we additionally approve the requested zoning relief for an accessory structure height of 19 feet, obtaining that 19 feet from the lowest point of grade, which appears to be in the northeast corner of the property.
I'll second that.
We want to qualify it with the additional traffic study information to the Planning Commission.
I think we can. Is City Council going to look at that? Well, I don't know how
We could include a recommendation to City Council that they further review the traffic study and the existing traffic
Because it appears that
the existing roadway infrastructure.
The two spots are affecting the churches across the street, so I don't know if that was taken into account, what their counts are.
The two spots are what?
The two spots that are being eliminated, the street spots, may affect the two churches across the street.
And those are even recommendations to the city. Those are even recommendations, like that's not even something the applicant can decide. That's just something they're proposing. So that's why. So that's why I'm saying if we can, maybe we could friendly amend to say that we recommend that City Council further review the traffic study as well as the existing roadway infrastructure and the what impacts those.
How about
I think we should include that recommendation, but not as part of the motion.
I was going to say that I would add in that we would recommend that City Council consider, therefore it is up to them to decide what to do with it, re-examining the traffic study that was presented and any additional information that may have an impact on that has come to light in our two hearings.
Okay. I'm comfortable with that. Okay.
Is it reseconded?
Who seconded?
It was seconded.
It has to be reseconded with that change.
Okay, we'll resecond that motion.
Okay. So the motion's been made, amended, and seconded. So with that, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
So the motion is carried 5-2 as a recommendation to the City Council. Are there any other matters before? Oh, we had schedule in our packet for next year. So we'll look at that really quickly.
Should they be required to sell gas at $2.25 a gallon?
That'd be awesome.
From the picture.
Seconded.
What's that?
Thank you, Mr. Engelmann.
Thank you.
I'm off the record making a recommendation that they include a McDonald's as part of the gas station.
Well, if Northwest Evanston doesn't want it, certainly it can be pushed on Southwest if the Southwest doesn't. That's what we're saying, isn't
Could
it?
I make a recommendation in regard to this, that we all take this, look at it, and let Ms. Klotz know if there are any conflicts that we have with it, rather than us trying to figure out our entire schedule right here, because some of us don't really carry schedules with us.
Of January.
Absolutely. We still have, I believe, 2 more scheduled meetings before the end of the year.
Okay.
We have, how many? We have-
Why don't I just say that we're on notice that we're gonna revisit this at our next meeting.
So come if you have conflicts, to let us know.
Or email her.
Whatever.
But one way or another, you let Melissa know before the next meeting, or you mention it at the next meeting. I will bring it up at the next meeting so that we are covered.
Yes, if you could, please, if you do know of a conflict that you have, let me know before the next meeting so I can try to figure out a date that will work for everyone.
See a couple. Agree. And then we will confirm our list at our next meeting. All right. Now that we've done that, anything else? With that, we're adjourned. Thank you.